Welcome back. So I just talked a lot about SSH and it sounds pretty interesting, but how exactly do we use it? Well, it's actually quite simple. We just run the SSH command with whatever user we want to reach at whichever host, that is, whichever computer IP address we want to get to. Let me show you what I mean by a little bit of a demonstration. Right over here, I went to DigitalOcean.com, and DigitalOcean is a provider that gives us servers for really, really cheap. I actually really, really like them, and if you're ever testing out stuff and you're looking for a good option to have a server somewhere out in the cloud, well, DigitalOcean is great. I went ahead and actually created something called Droplets, and that's what they call their version of servers that you can purchase. I selected Ubuntu, which for those who don't know, it is an open source operating system that's built on top of Linux. Most servers out there in the world use Ubuntu, so it's the standard. I'm just going to get the cheapest option here for $5 a month, just a little bit of memory, CPU. We're not going to be using it for anything too crazy, so this is great. I chose San Francisco as my region. Actually, I'm going to choose New York because it's closer to me, so that's where the server is going to be located, and I'm just going to hit create. And once I hit create, it will just give me a server that I can access. So right here with a bit of a gibberish of a name, that is my server. And you see over here how they give me the IP address of my server. Well, I can just copy this and I just go to my terminal. I can now, using the SSH command, access root, which is the user that they give us by default, and copy and paste the IP address that they gave us. Hit enter. And look at that. I am now inside of that server, inside of that terminal, and I can access anything I want. So if I click ls, I see here that I've created a hello directory. I can also do another directory. Let's just run a make directory and we'll call it woohoo because we're very excited. So now if I go ls, look at that. I have a directory called woohoo and I have full access to this server. Very, very cool. And don't worry, I'm going to show you how to actually set this up and how I got everything working in later on videos. But for now, let's just go back to this slide. Now, if you're using Linux or Mac, then using SSH is very simple. If you use Windows, you'll need to utilize an SSH client to open SSH connections. And the most popular one for Windows is called PuTTY, which I'll include in the resources for this lesson. Now, by using SSH, we can connect to this remote computer and run commands on it, just like I showed you. Now, how cool is that? Using SSH, we can connect to any computer that allows for these SSH connections anywhere in the world. So let's review. The SSH key command instructs your system that you want to open an encrypted secure shell connection. User represents the account you want to access. For example, you may want to access the root user, which is basically synonymous for system administrator, with complete rights to modify anything on the system, which can be dangerous at times. Host refers to the computer you want to access. This can be an IP address, like the one we used, or a domain name. And once you hit enter, you'll be greeted with a remote terminal window, just like we were in that example. Okay, so you're thinking to yourself, cool, Andre, but how does this apply to web development? Well, let me tell you a story and why I'm starting with this lesson in this course. On my very first day as a full-time developer, I was asked to create an SSH key and connect it to GitHub. And guess what? I had no idea how to do that. I knew all about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all that stuff, but nobody told me anything about using SSH key for GitHub. What was that? You see, I had no idea how to do it. SSH is a very important concept that not many talk about, but as a web developer, you really need to understand because you will use SSH all the time in your career. So some of these examples include connecting to GitHub, clone, push, pull files from their servers to your computer. Remember how when we clone something from GitHub, we have two options. We have use HTTPS, which you've most likely used before, and use SSH. And remember how with HTTPS, you had to enter your password all the time to clone a repo? You don't have to do that with SSH. And there's a few other benefits that we'll go over later. Second, you can remotely access another computer. So if you're at home and you need to access your computer at work, you can just SSH into it. Finally, probably the most important use case is you have your production app somewhere on a server, and in the middle of the night, you get a call. Hey, we deleted your app by mistake. Can you reinstall it on the server? Now, this sounds ridiculous, but it's actually something that has happened to me. I had to SSH into the server, get the project files to the server again, and go through all the steps of running npm install, npm build, npm start to get the app back up and running. So with the rest of the videos, I'm going to show you how to master SSH and never have to experience what I did on my first day of the job. You'll learn how encryption works, how to use SSH to solve the above problems, and also how to set up a server to allow for SSH connections. It is a skill that is so important, I wanted it to be the first part of the course. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.